So Gambhir says, guys, this is exactly the pitch that he wanted for India. Now, first off, what do you guys think? Over the last few days, we've all discussed a hell of a lot about this pitch and what it means. And look, for me, like I said, Newlands like this pitch. For me, this type of cricket is unacceptable. Look, I think the fans ended up really enjoying this test match, but you know, what if there were some people who bought tickets for tomorrow? There is no tomorrow now, unfortunately. So I don't know. What's your opinion on these types of pitches? A lot to discuss. The tactics from India this morning, for example, were they the right bowling choices, right? We think of somebody like a Sundar who barely even bowled in this test match. This is my post-match review of this absolutely enthralling test. Now, first of all, thank you all for tuning into my live stream. Got a lot of hours in this weekend just trying to build up some stamina. Yeah, it really was. I think a lot of people are going to be upset about this pitch. Obviously, everybody except the coach. I guess the big question is with India now, guys. Without the Kohlis, without the Rohits, without the Pujaras, how do you guys feel about, I'm going to say something that's maybe a little bit controversial, but how do you feel about the IPL kids in these types of spinning conditions? Because look, we got to speak about this. The South Africans, the Australians, the Black Caps, I'm not really going to throw England in here, but those three teams, they play all around the world, right? They play franchise cricket all around the world. 2 months in India in the IPL. They're exposed to these types of conditions, and that's where they get to play their shots against spin, where they get to be comfortable sweeping, etc., etc. So do you guys think that plays a bit of a role now, that you guys don't play as much cricket as you used to play? So players in this format, let me know what you think about that. IPL kids is probably a little bit harsh, but maybe for some of the players it's not really that harsh. My prediction was 2-0 for South Africa. I did a podcast on Thursday. Definitely, I felt quite nervous. I don't know what it is with us. We just seem to not start very well, and then maybe that sort of motivates us to do better. But I have to look at the fact that Temba Bavuma played that SAA versus India A match, and there were some fantastic performances by some of the batters there who are not really in the first team conversation for the Proteas. But look at Temba, highest score. He played that match. We gotta say that there's a little bit of a correlation. Guys, forgive me, my mic just went. I'm gonna speak extra loud. We gotta kind of think to ourselves that perhaps there is a bit of a correlation between him playing those matches and him getting this score. Look, Temba's a guy, he's never in the conversation that is the Fab Four, but over the last 3 or 4 years, I'm really starting to think, well, I was thinking this a while back, but I'm thinking that he should be considered. Yes, he cannot have the same amount of runs as some of the other guys, because as South Africans, we don't get to play these 5 test match series. You guys have your big 3 club. Same with Rabada. How many wickets do you think that guy would have had if he was playing more test matches? On to Rabada. A lot of people are saying Gill made the difference in this match. What do you guys think? Honestly and truly, what do you think of that? Because my mind goes to this ODI World Cup in 23 in India, where the ball was absolutely turning, and Maharaj and Shamsi, they were bowling against India, right? It was absolutely phenomenal. One of the best spin pair spells I've seen from South Africa, and Shreyas Iyer and Virat Kohli. I think both of them had strike rates of like 20. Shreyas probably 10 or 15. But they just hung in there because those two were so good. And there was this ball from Keshav Maharaj that dismissed Gill. Yeah, absolutely phenomenal that. So maybe Keshav would have had Gill's number. Maybe Rabada. Because I feel like Rabada was also a gift. If Rabada played in this test match, guys, I do think things would have been different for South Africa. Maybe you guys wouldn't have had a 30-run lead if we had a Rabada to bowl there with Jansen, because I still think from both sides I felt like there were a couple of tactical issues for me. I thought this morning, I don't think Akshar Patel should have been the guy. Guys, let me know what you think about that. Just like I didn't think that Keshav should have bowled that over against Akshar. I know that he wants to contribute and he's been waiting his whole life for this moment. But sometimes you got to take the emotion out of things, right? Because that's what Australia does. And that's why Australia is the most successful team. I always say that they're cold as ice when it comes to these sorts of things. And I was watching the highlights now, guys, of that over of Keshav Maharaj to Akshar. And you know what? That ball, great catch by Temba, but that ball was there to be hit. It was mishit. But there was every chance. It wasn't a good ball. There was every chance that that could have gone for 6. And then all of a sudden, India need in the 20s, and then what? A completely different game. So again, I said this on live. I won't blame Akshar because that really was their only opportunity, because Simon Harmer, guys, he was the best spinner in this match. He was the best spinner. You can argue with me about it in the comments. Just the way that he bowled is how you bowl in Test cricket. I mean, yeah, I'm still quite shaking. I've been busy doing a lot of things. But I would have started with Bumrah and then I would have kept with Jadeja. I also don't think, and I'm a big Kuldeep Yadav fan, but when you have such a strong matchup with Jadeja versus the right-handed batters, we saw the matchup when Markram also came in from the other end against India's left-handed batters. South Africa and India both have a little bit of an issue there, right? You've got these batters, India, the left-handed batters, chock and block there at the back. South Africa, we've got the right-handed batters, and so therefore collapses. Yes, this pitch was abhorrent, but I feel like the same thing can happen in the next match. Who knows? You guys said Guwahati. It could be a little bit of more of a run fest. Let's see. Temba, the only half centurion in this game. I've already spoken enough about my captain. Marco Jansen, we need to talk about him because I think dismissing Jaiswal early was quite huge. And then obviously getting the top scorer from the first innings, KL Rahul, 2 absolute jaffers, and again we spoke about this in the live. He was just tempting Jaiswal, a couple of deliveries way too wide, and then he just bowled one, kind of I'd say the perfect channel for a left arm quick to a left arm batter. That was absolutely brilliant. Yeah, big thing for me, Sundar. I mean, with the amount of flight, how I saw him bowling in England, I was like, this guy can be a real threat to any batters from Sina, and we barely saw him bowl. So is that the type of sacrifice that you want to make, India? That, okay, they want to put him at number 3, but does that mean he's just not going to bowl? Because I feel like I'd rather have him bowling than have him bat at number 3, even though he did bat really well in that second innings. It just wasn't good enough. Those are some of the talking points for me. South Africa, I already spoke about it. Look, I do feel like depending on what the pitch is going to do in the next game, there are a couple of changes that I would make. Would you make any changes for the Indian side? Are there any players that you would bring in for South Africa? The news is that KG might be injured for the second game as well. It's a quick turnaround here. I would keep Bush in. I think yesterday he bowled better than today. Today a little bit loose. But look, it's all about contributions, and I've said it before, and I think Vian Mulder was fantastic for us in the World Test Championship. He didn't bat well in that final, but he bowled all right. You know, he took 2 wickets. But it has to be about contributions. You know, we need to think about, we're about to face Australia, we're about to face England next year. You want 11 people on the park that can contribute. Markram, he scored that 31 in the first innings. He looked really, really good. And then here comes Bumrah, bowls an absolute jaffa. But how good was Markram's catching in the slips? If we take him out, I don't think we're going to be catching a lot of balls in the slips. So let's just be real with that. How handy was his right arm off spin? They could have brought him in a little bit earlier and maybe he would have had more than 1 wicket. Who knows? So it's all for me about contributions. How much do you contribute? So if we look at it from that perspective, I would want 2 or 3 changes. If the wicket is a little bit flatter, maybe they'll stick to the same 11, but who knows? Look, fantastic test match. There are going to be some things about the pitch, but let me know your thoughts. Let me know of some tactical things that you might have would have wanted different. I definitely think if you started with Bumrah this morning and Jadeja, it could have maybe perhaps been a little bit different. What were your thoughts? Thank you so much for joining in to my live. Yeah, let me know what you think.